Little Red Riding Hood. Chapter 1, Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother. Once upon a time, there was a dear little girl called Little Red Riding Hood who was loved by everyone, especially her grandmother. One day, her mother gave her a red velvet cap, which Little Red Riding Hood loved and wore all the time. Her mother then asked her to take some cake and wine to her grandmother, who was sick and weak. Chapter 2, The Wolf Meets Little Red Riding Hood. As Little Red Riding Hood was walking in the woods to her grandmother's house, a wolf met her. Little Red Riding Hood didn't know that the wolf was a wicked creature and wasn't afraid of him. The wolf asked her where she was going and what she had in her apron. Little Red Riding Hood told him that she was going to her grandmother's house with cake and wine. Chapter 3, Little Red Riding Hood goes off the path. The wolf then suggested that Little Red Riding Hood take a look at the flowers and birds around them. Little Red Riding Hood liked the idea and ran off the path to pick some flowers. She got carried away and kept going deeper into the woods. Chapter 4, The Wolf Eats Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother. Meanwhile, the wolf ran straight to Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother's house, knocked on the door and pretended to be Little Red Riding Hood. The grandmother couldn't get up and let the wolf in. The wolf then ate the grandmother, dressed up in her clothes, and waited for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. Chapter 5, Little Red Riding Hood arrives at her grandmother's house. Little Red Riding Hood arrived at her grandmother's house and found the door open. She went inside and felt uneasy, but didn't know why. She called out to her grandmother but received no answer. She went to the bed and found the wolf disguised as her grandmother. Chapter 6, The Wolf Talks to Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf told Little Red Riding Hood that he had big ears to hear her better, big eyes to see her better, big hands to hug her better, and a big mouth to eat her better. Then, he ate Little Red Riding Hood. Chapter 7, The Huntsman Finds the Wolf. A huntsman was passing by and heard the wolf snoring. He thought the grandmother might still be alive, so he decided not to shoot the wolf. Instead, he cut open the wolf's stomach and found Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother inside. Chapter 8, The Huntsman Saves Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother. The huntsman took Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother out of the wolf's stomach and sewed the wolf back up. They were all very happy to be alive and hugged each other tightly. Chapter 9, Little Red Riding Hood Learns a Lesson. Little Red Riding Hood learned a lesson from her experience in the woods. She realized that she shouldn't talk to strangers and should stay on the path when walking in the woods. Chapter 10, The End of the Story. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother lived happily ever after. They never forgot what had happened and always reminded each other to be careful when they went out. And as for the wolf, he was never seen again in the woods. Welcome to this video where we explore 5 vocabulary words from the classic story of Little Red Riding Hood. In this beloved tale, a little girl with a red hood goes to visit her grandmother in the woods. Along the way, she encounters a wolf who has other plans for her and her grandmother. Let's dive into the story and learn some new words. The first word we encounter is perilous, which means dangerous or risky. Little Red Riding Hood's journey through the woods was indeed perilous, as she faced many risks and dangers. She encountered a wolf who could have harmed her, and the journey itself was full of obstacles and challenges. The second word is distracted, which means to be diverted or lose focus. Little Red Riding Hood got distracted on her way to her grandmother's house when she picked some flowers for her. This diversion ultimately led her to meet the wolf, which changed the course of the story. Next, we have ominous, which means giving the impression that something bad or unpleasant is going to happen. The wolf's behavior towards Little Red Riding Hood had an ominous feel to it, as he tried to deceive her and hide his true intentions. The fourth word is menacing, which means threatening or intimidating. The wolf's actions towards Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother were menacing, as he posed a danger to them and their safety. Lastly, we have deceive, which means to mislead or trick someone. The wolf tried to deceive Little Red Riding Hood by pretending to be her grandmother, in order to get closer to her and harm her. Little did he know, Little Red Riding Hood was clever enough to recognize the deception and outsmart the wolf. That concludes our exploration of 5 vocabulary words from Little Red Riding Hood. We hope you learned something new today and can use these words in your own writing and conversation. Thank you for watching.